Hello and welcome into Talking Fantasy Baseball. I'm your host, Josh Day, and with me is Eric Hinrichsen. On today's show, we'll be talking about players we're looking at this year going into the season, other things like how to judge prospects and rookies, things we're looking at in spring training. And also, we'll be playing a fun round of real or not real. Eric,
I'm very excited for that game. Very, very
yeah,
excited. A little bit of rapid fire, a little bit
yep.
of quick insight for you. We got a lot of fun games planned for you. So this is our first one. I'm very excited to play.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while for sure. How are you? How's your prep going for the season?
My prep is going great. I have not done a mock draft yet. So,
No?
no, I have been extremely
Ah,
busy, but I've been cramming. The tomorrow is like you know when you have a finals exam in college and
yeah.
and stay up all night the night before. Well, you and I both have a draft in a couple days, and I'll be
Yep.
taking the day before to absolutely cram in all the information that I have not been able to consume yet, including doing countless mock drafts. Now, we play in a keeper league, and we talked about this last time. It's a little bit different when you're in a keeper league doing mock drafts, but I really need to get an idea of where the players are going, where I can wait on, like I can wait on a shortstop because that's a deep position this year. I can wait,
For sure.
when should I take the meat of my starting pitching,
Hmm.
stable. So I kind of need to just get an idea of ADP, because we can talk about this and analyze players and get an idea of who we want to draft. But if I got to draft, I don't know. Let's just say Jordan Westberg's been a hot name this spring. If I got to draft
Yes, he
Jordan
is.
Westberg in round 4, I feel like that's overpaying. But if he's going generally
At second
around,
base?
yeah, I know. But
Mhm.
round 4, I'd rather an
Oh, well, it's a keeper
established.
league, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keeper league.
he's most likely going probably round 8, 9, 10, I'd say.
Yes.
And 10, definitely 10 team leagues.
Yeah, I mean,
So
look, 8, 9, 10, much better value. I'm happy to do it there. For a guy with tremendous upside, they move the fences in. But I just got to get that idea, and I'm gonna cram it in last second, cram it in day before the draft. So, man, it's baseball weather outside too.
I know
So I'm
it's
excited.
coming.
I'm excited. Yeah,
15 days and what is it? 15 days opening day
15
for
days
real? Not counting
to
Tokyo.
yeah, not counting Tokyo. 15 days to opening day. And it's I think every team plays that day, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's a wonderful day for sure.
it's a wonderful day for baseball. A wonderful day for
Um,
America. Oh, who is that? There was a late night host that used to say that, right? He was like, "It's a great day for America." Everybody. I think it was Craig Ferguson. It's a great day for America,
oh,
everybody.
deep pull.
Pop culture reference for you.
All right. Well, let's talk about some players we're excited for. Well, excited for, maybe curious about, have some questions about going into the season. And players like Wyatt Langford, Brandon Pfaadt, and Michael Conforto. I know you're invested in Wyatt Langford, Eric. Do you want to talk about why you're hyped on him and why you think he's bound to superstardom?
Yeah, I really think he is. You texted me the other day that he was raking this spring, and he
He certainly is.
absolutely is. He's got a 583 batting average this spring. He's got an opponent quality. Remember we talked about that in our last episode. He's got an opponent quality of 7.9, so he's facing legitimate competition. Uh, he's got a homer, 3 RBIs, and he just looks so good at the plate. Like he's passing the eye test. Also,
Yeah,
like let's not
you've
forget,
seen.
these are human beings. We can reduce them to numbers, but when you watch them play, it tells you a
Yeah,
lot too, right?
true.
So I look at Wyatt Langford and I look at the behind the scenes numbers, the contact metrics that we like to go by that we introduced you to in our first episode. I like to look at those, and Wyatt Langford's screams professional baseball player, superstar in the making. I mean, this guy had a swinging strike rate of 8.8% last year. That is elite, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's good.
you have some of the best hitters in baseball, 5% higher than that. Like that is incredible as a rookie with 40 games of minor league baseball experience before being, making the team out of training camp last year. I mean, he had a zone contact percentage of 86.5. I mean, this guy doesn't swing and miss. That's part of the swinging strike rate, right? Even if the ball is out of the zone, he's hitting it almost 61% of the time. And I think most importantly for a young player, and we'll get into more of this a little bit later, his swing percentage was 43%. He is
Mm.
not an aggressive swinger like Ellie De La Cruz is a free swinger. Wyatt Langford is not that. He's patient. He has a good eye at the plate, and he has very good bat to ball skills. I think Wyatt Langford is primed for a 30-20 season. I mean, last year he stole 19
Really?
bases. Yeah, I really do. I think it's there based on those contact metrics to take a step forward and be really like a potential first or second round pick next year.
What do you see as batting average being when it's all
Ooh.
said and done?
So last year he had a 253 average on a 296 BABIP. I honestly think he could hit 285 to 300. The
Mm,
contact, the quality
that's
of
really
contact.
lofty.
I know. Look, I'm
I mean,
invested in
that's
him,
like I would say that's probably like the highest outcome
possibly, but I think it's
of
within the realm
outcomes.
of possibility.
I'm a little skeptical on the power. I think he reaches 20, maybe mid 20s. I
Okay.
mean his average exit velocity last season was like 89 with a max of 111. So I'm not sure where, like, I think at some point he very well could get to 30, but I would hedge probably closer to 20, maybe 25 if I was gambling and placing bets. I also think he's probably more like a 270, 280 this season, but
Okay.
who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the excitement of being a fan of baseball is that, there's a wide range of outcomes. Nothing's set, it can go high, it can go mid, it can go horribly wrong. I'm looking at you, Bo Bichette. But, certainly an exciting young talent.
I'd say so.
Another player we're looking at, young guy looking to break out is Brandon Pfaadt.
Look, I'll tell you this. Brandon Pfaadt may never be the frontline ace for fantasy purposes. There aren't many of those these days. But I will say this, when you see a guy who puts up an ERA of 4.71 last year and his xERA was a full run lower, you know he was unlucky. He had a FIP and an xFIP also a full run lower, actually over a full run lower. I just think Brandon Pfaadt is poised to have better luck. It's as simple as that. Now, are the skills there to, like I said, make him a frontline ace? No. But I think he can be a very solid number 3,
Hmm.
or like a high end number 4, depending on your league, depending on if you really like to invest in pitching. So I really do believe that Brandon Pfaadt is in for just better luck this year. It's not necessarily where I think Wyatt Langford's skills are going to propel him forward. I just think
Right.
Brandon Pfaadt has to have better luck on his side. With better luck may come a higher strikeout rate.
Hmm.
Obviously a lower ERA. If you look at his Sierra, I really like to go off of Sierra for pitchers. I think it's
Yeah, I do too.
generally the most predictive stat rather than ERA, xERA, FIP, and xFIP. So if you look at his Sierra, it was a full run lower. So I would say better luck is on the horizon for Brandon Pfaadt, even if he doesn't take a step forward skill wise.
Well, I think speaking of that, I think one thing talking about his luck and skill, I think one thing he can definitely do to up his luck and build his skill is build up his arsenal when he's facing left-handed batters. I think that was his real Achilles heel last season, particularly his four-seamer. Left-handed batters were just crushing that. I think he's certainly talented enough, but I'd be really curious to see if he's developed, if he's worked on something in the off season or just, he's a young guy. So I'm wondering if, he's gonna bring out his changeup against lefties. I think he was probably underutilizing that. So maybe he's building confidence, but I think he's definitely a person to keep an eye on. Yeah, he could be a great number 3 in your lineup.
He doesn't actually cost that much in
That's
drafts,
true.
right? So it really is a low risk, high upside play here. And again, we're not talking stud level
Yeah,
upside.
yeah,
We're
right.
talking about very serviceable pencil him in 180 to 200 innings. I mean,
Yeah.
that's also rare these days, right?
Durability.
Yeah, durability. When he was called up to the major leagues in 2023, between the minors and the majors, he threw 156 and 2/3 innings. Last year, he threw 181 and 2/3. So you're talking about a guy with no innings limits who's
Yep.
playing for a very good team.
Yep. Good park, I think.
Yeah, very good park
Right.
for
Base
pitchers.
field.
So you look at his quality start potential is high, his win potential is high.
Yep.
And again, some of those numbers will just work themselves out with just better luck. So low cost, high reward. I'm in. Why not?
I'm in too. Another player we're going to talk about here is Michael Conforto, who is now an outfielder for the Los Angeles Dodgers. A bit of a change of scenery going down south from San Francisco. What are your thoughts on Michael Conforto?
I want to preface everything that I'm about to say with Michael Conforto with this. I've never been a big Michael Conforto believer.
Oh,
Is that because I'm a Yankee fan and he came up with the Mets? Maybe. For a guy who had so much buzz for so long, he's never really had that wonderful of a season. Even the year he hit
no.
30 home runs, which he's only done one time. Okay.
Yep.
He had 92 RBIs and he hit 257.
Well, that was also the juice ball season,
That was the juice ball
2019.
season. Since then, his highest home run total in a season, 20. That's it. And that was last year,
Yeah.
right? And he hit 237 on top of that. Look, in the type of leagues we play in, the type of leagues our expertise speaks to, Michael Conforto is maybe a guy you pick up if you need an injury replacement, and he's hot, right? I understand why there's so much buzz about him this year, and that's literally only because he's on the Dodgers. There's really no reason to have this wild fascination with Michael Conforto. I got to be honest, like I
Mhm.
just don't
Yeah.
I don't see anything beyond what he did last year. I don't. There's like
Well, I mean,
there's
wouldn't you say I think he's just gonna do what he did last year in a Dodgers uniform. Like I think he'll probably hit 20 home runs at most. I think he'll maybe drive in more runs than RBI because he'll have a better surrounding cast around him, but he'll probably, he's not gonna help you in batting average, like maybe 240. You just got to be realistic and who he is. I mean, he's shown us who he is for several seasons now, so I'm not sure why he would change necessarily
right.
at this point.
He's a below average hitter who can hit 20 home runs. Like, isn't that Jason Hayward? Basically,
Oh,
with a couple more home runs. I know them's like fighting words, but if you look at his home runs expected by Park, he hit 20 last year in San Francisco, which is notoriously terrible for hitters, especially lefties. He was expected to have 21 if he played for the Dodgers last year. That's one more home run. Like that's an accounting error to me, right? So like I don't I don't really think there's much.
are they gonna platoon him?
They very well might platoon him. I could see that
I mean, they
happening
have
with
so
yeah,
many guys.
Andy Pajes, right? Like without a buzzy name from last season who kind of fell
Right.
off the table after getting called up. But just to buy into somebody because they play for a certain team after they've shown you who they are for so long, I think that's a silly reason to buy into somebody. Conforto's 32, man. He's been around for a decade.
Just looking at his ADP right now, it's 257. So I'm not sure how much outside of deep leagues. I think certainly in our leagues, I'd be skeptical that he's even drafted at this point.
Yeah.
I think in the context of like a 10-team Yahoo league, he's going to be like picked up for Coors Field games and just plugged into lineups for tasty matchups is what I would say.
Juice that orange, as is so infamously said in the podcast
Yeah.
world, right? So tip of the hat to the originators of Juice in the Orange.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're in agreement on him because I just don't understand it.
Moving on to new and exciting things. Let's talk about prospects. Let's talk about rookies and how we're evaluating rookies, this rookie class going into this season. What's your approach when you're scouting prospects?
Man. Okay. So it can be really difficult to scout prospects to understand who's worth investing in. Maybe if you play in a keeper or a dynasty league. And I've learned actually a lot of this from you. So I hope you speak to this a bit more.
Sure.
And I think you can do a bit better than I can actually when evaluating prospects. I think at the beginning of the year, at least, don't look past the top 10 unless you know somebody who is going to have a guaranteed roster spot. I just don't think that they're generally worth it unless
No.
also in the spring they prove that they're ready. Look at that opponent
Right.
quality.
Yep.
Look at what they did in the minor leagues last year and the year before. See if there's growth at all because you do get a lot of guys who do get called up start the season with the team who really shouldn't, but it's mainly because there's an injury spot that the team has and they just give a guy a look. Plus, teams are incentivized right now with how free
Yep.
agency works for young players to bring them up at a spring training and keep them on the roster for as long as possible.
Yep.
So I would just say look at the opponent quality, look at how they did last year, and are they a highly touted and respected prospect? There are guys where you're like, oh, I do want to invest. I do like what I see. Like Nat Shaw of the Cubs might be somebody worth investing in. You're seeing growth, seeing upside, and you see a job on the roster at a spring training. I think that's also
Yeah.
important.
But he was also invited to the Tokyo series, so I think it's looking like he's gonna break camp.
There's something to be said for a guy that young breaking camp with the team and having a starting spot right off the bat. So look for instances like that too. It's harder to say, oh, I'll break down their contact metrics, I'll break down their Statcast page because they don't have that. So you have to look at other indicators that aren't as tangible to see, who might be worth investing in.
To piggyback off what you're saying, particularly with prospects, there's only so much you can glean from looking at spreadsheet data because from what I've learned is that the different minor league systems can just vary wildly from opposition quality, just overall environmental. Like the Pacific Coast League is just a notorious like inflated hitter environment. Last year, I was reading about Andrew Abbott before he came up, and he was getting all this hype. But then when I was looking into it, he was actually facing a lot like in his complex, he was facing a lot of pretty low level batters, so that was inflating his numbers. So what I like to do is I look at the data, but I also seek out information from sources that actually scout these guys and translate what they're seeing to fantasy purposes. People like James Anderson of RotoWire and Chris Welsh.
The
I think he
Welsh.
writes. Yeah, he's kind of everywhere. He's on CBS. He's with the Athletic. But these guys, they're known for scouting, rookies and charting their development through the minors and ranking them. And I believe, Chris, I think he lives in Arizona, so he goes to the minor league camps and he's actually seeing these guys. So yeah, I would highly recommend following guys like that, just because then you get, a true sense of who these young players are, more than just data can tell you on a sheet. Um,
Again, it's that
but
human element, right? The eye
right,
test.
yeah. And I think, for me, it's really exciting with spring training because these guys, out of all the players, I feel like they kind of have the most to prove. We get to see them facing, major league pitching. We get to see if they're ready or they're not. I think the trio in Boston right now is really interesting follow. That's Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, and Marcelo Mayer. I think out of the three, I would say Roman Anthony, based on his performance and based on what I've read about him, he seems like the most ready out of the three. From what I've seen of Christian Campbell, who's an also equally highly touted prospect, he looks a bit overmatched to me. And I think that's coming through in the numbers. I know he homered last night, but I think that was a prospect game. So it's a really, to me, it's one of the most exciting aspects of spring training is seeing these young guys come up and try and prove themselves.
I agree because especially if you look at that opponent quality number that we talked about, you know if they're facing pitchers that they might face if they were to get the call, not just the guys that they've seen before in the
Right.
minor leagues. Because what makes it, again, going back to tangibility thing, like in our first episode, we talked a lot about numbers and evaluating numbers, but the tangibility factor, what makes a major league hitter different than a minor league hitter, and what makes a major league pitcher different from a minor league pitcher? A major league hitter can hit the breaking ball. A minor league pitcher can throw a breaking ball for strikes whenever they want. So that's the difference. So if you get a guy up there who can't hit a breaking ball against a guy who can throw wherever they want, whenever they want, you're looking at somebody who's going to have trouble, and vice versa. So,
Right, right.
I really do think that, evaluating these prospects, especially because we play in keeper leagues, is very fun, and it is one of the most exciting things about the spring. And I'm glad you brought up the Boston Three, the big three in Boston.
Mhm.
And I agree with your take on every single one of them. Roman Anthony is ready. Christian Campbell is not, and Marcelo Meyer may not have a spot. But
Yeah.
but he's been a high end prospect for a while, so he might very well be ready too. Who knows? Who knows what they're
Although
gonna
I
do?
heard, I
You know?
heard some interesting things about Marcelo Meyer recently, where I believe he was hampered. He has kind of a checkered past with injury, so I think that's kind of slowed his process. So I kind of wonder if he's, going to be kind of on the back burner for certainly this season.
I mean, it's entirely possible. Maybe he's one of those guys that gets a couple months to season up in the minor leagues,
Yeah.
proves that he can stay healthy, and then comes up. Because inevitably, the Red Sox options at middle infield are going to get hurt or going to be really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
There will be a spot available at some point for
At
both
some
Christian
point, yeah.
Campbell and Marcelo Meyer.
All right, so moving on. You ready for a game of real or not real?
I am ready. I got my vocal warm-ups. We did just take like a short 1-minute break. I got my vocal warm-ups in for this rapid fire. I am taking classes on auctioneering,
Oh,
so I can
wow.
be. No, I'm joking. I am definitely not
Oh, I
doing
was
that.
excited there for a minute. Do a podcast on that.
So I am 100% ready for this rapid fire. We got a few names lined up. We're gonna tell you real or not real, and why. Woo!
All right. Lawrence Butler.
Not real. Hot for 2 months, terrible the rest of the time, and his career before those 2 months, not great, Bob, as they say. Also had an inflated BABIP, and only still hit 262. Look, he still might put up a lot of counting stats, but do not expect them to come with a decent batting average. And there's a very good chance, actually, that he finds himself in the minor leagues because he struggles. So I would say not real.
Hunter Brown.
Oh man, this one's way harder.
Yeah.
I will say real. The underlying stats match the surface level stats. Whereas his K rate was down, it was only because of that awful start he got off to. He still threw 170 innings, and when you have very few pitchers that go that long, I would say real. Just don't invest too soon. Take him at his ADP, and if he falls, definitely take him.
Josh Naylor. So is he at 64, pick 64 right now?
No way.
Yeah, YADP 64. Anyway, Josh Naylor.
I would say not real in a weird way. Power numbers will go down. His RBI numbers probably going to stay about the same, but his batting average should go up. He's not a 240 hitter. He's more of like a 260, 270 hitter, and I think he's more of a 20 to 25 homer guy, not a 30 homer guy, but he plays on a very good team. He's hitting behind Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte, so I could definitely see those RBI numbers staying right about where they were. So I'm going to say not real, but don't expect too much value regression. However, do not take him at his ADP of 64. That is insane.
Matt Chapman.
Oh, Matt Chapman, real in the power department, not real in the speed department. 15 bases, more stolen bases than he had in his entire career. He did score 98 runs, which is great. Now you've got Willie Adames there, so you're probably going to still have run opportunities. His RBI numbers will go up because having 78 RBIs on 27 home runs feels kind of low, but he is a 240, 250 hitter at his best. So I would say real in the power, not real in the speed. He might be a good waiver wire pickup if you have an injury at third base during the year, but I think there are 10 better third basemen.
Zach Neto.
Not real. If you look at a StatCast page, that thing is frigid cold. I don't think that power is real whatsoever. Plus, he plays for the Angels. Ugh.
Yeah, bad.
Ugh.
Sad team. I'll
Sad.
say.
Very sad.
Or Mike Trout. Ryan Walker.
Oh man, Ryan Walker. Okay, real. That man, if you've ever seen him pitch from behind home plate, he looks like he's going to throw the ball into the third base dugout. It is the most cross body motion I've ever seen. Now, long-term health, do not like that whatsoever. At least for the first half of this year, it's real. What he did is real. I would not overdraft him though, because a guy with that motion could very well fall apart very quickly or get hurt because that is such extra strain on your lat muscle.
Yeah.
Oh, again, the eye test thing, right? There's just a longevity thing that just does not pan out when you throw like that. So I'm not sure that Camilo Doval won't be the closer for San Francisco by the end of the season.
Yeah, that's true.
So not real for Ryan Walker in a very roundabout, weird way. Not real. Woo!
That was good.
Woo!
That was a fun one.
Any other names?
I think that's all for this week's round of real or not real.
Hey, do you agree or disagree with any of those? Am I out of my mind? Because that was like really fast. I don't even remember what I said. Was Hunter Brown real or not real?
You had him as real. He's probably going to be like a high threes ERA, and his current YADP is 90. But I guess you're going to have to take that chance. I mean, I think that's kind of a through line with some of these guys is you're going to have to take a leap of faith. Like with Lawrence Butler, I could see him going 2020 at 250 average. Not the best surrounding cast, so maybe a high of like 78 runs, 70 RBI. But he's gone at pick 73.
That feels like a heavy investment to me.
It's
top 100 pick.
I mean, I think if you're searching for outfield at that point and you need some speed and power, I mean, I guess you could take a chance, but definitely a leap of faith. I am way out on Josh Naylor at his ADP of 64. He's probably going to hit at most maybe 20 home runs, hit 260 maybe, but he does play for a solid team. So, I think he's going to probably drive in 90, but yeah, 64. I can't do that.
No, that is way too expensive.
I'm with you on Chapman. I think he's actually a great like fallback in like a 12 team league because he's going at pick 123 right now in Yahoo. The power, I think 240 average, definitely a good fallback option in a 12 team league. Yeah, I mean Zach Neto, he's not going to cost anything, so I guess if you
injury stash,
I don't know, I go that far, but I think if you find yourself needing a shortstop at some point, or he gets hot, plus he plays for the Angels, and I just think there's not a lot there
to play for that organization, man. Which is why I found it hilarious this offseason when they were like the first in the forefront of free agency. They signed so many guys like within minutes of free agency opening. I'm like, are you trying to compete? What is this? What is the strategy here? Or the strat, as the kids say. They signed Yusei Kikuchi, I think, and a couple other veterans. And are they trying to make the playoffs? Are they trying not to totally waste Mike Trout's time? Poor guy. Somebody save Mike Trout.
I think isn't Luis Rengifo getting a lot of buzz?
He is. Now there's another guy.
Is that a guy you?
Oh man. Let's see. Luis Rengifo. As I bring up his Statcast page, No.
Bonus round. Here we go.
Bonus round, Luis Rengifo. Not real. Barrels 2.0, launch angle 6. Look, he lowered his strikeout rate, which is great, but the amount of counting stats that he's going to provide are just not there. He's never been a big stolen base guy before last season. I just would not want anything to do with Luis Rengifo.
Yeah.
No, I do not like that StatCast page.
Not great, Bob.
Yeah.
But
that was intense, that round of real and no real. Woo, I'm still reeling.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to bring it back often.
Yeah, that was fun. And as I think we get further along into the season, we'll have a longer list of players, and because we'll be going off of in that moment, right? Like, is what they're doing right now real or not real? And it'll be even more of a exercise for the brain, and maybe we'll go even faster. We'll put a time limit on it. See what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. Next time we'll highlight spring standouts, takeaways from the Tokyo series, and we'll play the No Name game. So tune in next week to find out what that is.
I am so excited. Even more so excited for the No Name game, because it really speaks to player value, where you just take away. Oh, I'm going to leave it right there. The little tease. Come back next week.
I like it. Yeah, so please subscribe. We're available on all major podcast platforms. Give us a like, 5-star rating, a kind review will go a long way. And if there's anything you want to talk about, drop us a message. For Eric, I'm Josh. We'll see you around.
Have a good one.